So finally, inventory for the existing iPad Air is dwindling, which is a sign that we should see the new model launch very soon, so let's delve in. Recently, Mark Gurman told us we should see the M4 MacBook Air launch this week. We shall find out in a few days if that is true. But he had also mentioned we should see new iPads follow suit shortly, but they will not launch at the same time as the MacBook. So basically, if we decipher what Gurman's trying to tell us very vaguely, I feel like we could either see the iPad Air launch during late March or early April, since it seems instead of launching all their spring launches at once, Apple now wants to space out their releases and basically be the focus of attention for the next few weeks instead of only a few days. That's a pretty smart move on their part. And so we saw the iPhone 16e in February, that had its wave of coverage. Up next is the MacBook, and then 2 or 3 weeks later, we should see this new iPad Air alongside the iPad 11. Apple suppliers are also preparing shipments for this new iPad, and so that's another sign the new model's launching very soon. Now, what are the main upgrades with this new model, you may be wondering? Are we getting OLED on the iPad Air last? Well, not really. No. Mark Gurman has said the main upgrade with the new iPad Air is going to be a chipset upgrade, because clearly the M2 is not powerful enough to run the calculator application. Now, you would think it would make sense for this to get the M3, but apparently Apple's skipping that chipset entirely, and they're giving this the mighty M4. So yes, if everything pans out like Gurman says, the iPad Air and Pro are going to have the same chipset, which by the way is not the first time this has happened. Very briefly, the iPad Air and Pro share the same M1 chipset, and I can understand why they're doing this because M3 is based on the flawed TSMC N3B process, whereas M4 is based on the much more efficient and easier to produce N3E process. I know that's just a bunch of letters, but basically M4 is better for Apple, okay? And especially considering the M4 is in wide circulation right now, with it being used in a wide range of products, it makes sense to chuck it in the iPad Air as well. And even if the iPad Pro and Air share the same chipset, the Pro still has other advantages, like the new design in OLEDs, so I can ultimately see this happening, guys. Now, what other changes can we expect apart from a new chipset? There's nothing else that's rumored really. This will be the 4th year Apple is going to be reusing the same exact chassis we saw with the 2020 iPad Air first, which in itself was just a rehashed 2018 iPad Pro. So you're probably wondering when the iPad Air is going to get a redesign. Well, it seems like we can expect OLED to come to the iPad Air in 2026 or 2027, so essentially the refresh after this M4 iPad Air should be the one that gets the redesign. And most importantly, OLED from the iPad Pros. Of course, that dual stack display is still likely very expensive to make, and so they can't bring it to the iPad Air just yet, hence why we're getting another minor refresh. But whilst the iPad Air itself might not get that many changes, we could see a new Magic Keyboard launch with this generation. The code names for these keyboards are R307 and R308, and apparently they're going to bring down some of the key upgrades we saw with the M4 iPad Pro's Magic Keyboards. So maybe this could mean a thinner profile, a larger glass trackpad, and most importantly a function row, but I'm guessing the aluminium palm rest is going to stay a Pro exclusive, just so that looks a little more premium. But honestly, I would just be happy if the Air gained a function row and the larger trackpad, because assuming this keyboard will be backwards compatible with older models, that would allow those still using the M1, M2 iPad Air Pros to get a new snazzy keyboard. Though actually it has bothered me for a long time, the Magic Keyboard has a larger camera cutout that does not match with the cutout on the iPad Air, and so I would not mind if the Magic Keyboard was solely designed for the smaller cutout on the Air, just so it looks cleaner. And yeah, I know that's going to screw over iPad Pro consumers, but I care about small things like this, and I want the cutout to actually match with the new iPad Air. And you know what else I care about, guys? You clicking that subscribe button. It's free and it'll bring you the latest of Apple right to the subscription box, so please consider it. It would be appreciated. Join the Surround Byte gang now. It is also weird that right now the base iPad's Magic Keyboard Folio has a function row and the iPad Air's Magic Keyboard doesn't, so we desperately need an overhaul to the keyboard range, and honestly Apple could take things further by just bringing support for a new Magic Keyboards to both the base iPad and iPad Air, considering the 11-inch models are so similar in dimension anyway. I don't think we need 3 separate keyboards, and I understand the Pros might want their own special accessories, But the base iPad and iPad Air could quite easily share the same keyboards. I'm also hoping this new Magic Keyboard is cheaper because it doesn't make a lot of sense to me. The iPad Air and Pro's Magic Keyboards cost exactly the same when the iPad itself is much cheaper than the Pro. But honestly, that's about it for the changes, and there's nothing else that's rumored, and frankly, there's nothing else they could actually add to this iPad. I'm not saying the M2 iPad is perfect, but it's a solid tablet, and the upgrades people ideally want, like OLED, are not coming anytime soon, and so I would not be surprised if Apple's only giving us a chipset upgrade because it makes things easier for their supply chain. Since, as I said, a lot of products currently use the M4, and M2 is probably going to be phased out soon, since when the M4 MacBook Air launches, the M2 Air, the other M2 products in the range, is going to be discontinued. Though I guess we can always look forward to new colors, guys, yay! Oh my god, I can't wait. Actually, if the new colors are vivid and punchy, I would be hyped for this, but the thing is, for some reason when it comes to the iPad Air, Apple refuses to do that and always gives us really pale shades that all look greyish, and I'm assuming the same is going to continue with the M4 iPad Air. Also, this kind of bothered me with the M2 models, but the 13-inch iPad Air has slightly thinner bezels than the 11-inch, as well as a slightly brighter display, and so it would be nice if we had some feature parity in the range. But let's be honest, the whole reason there's a difference in the first place is because they're reusing old LCD 12.9-inch iPad Pro panels, because at Apple the motto is to save the planet and recycle everything. The iPad Air also does not have a flash, whereas the Mini does, and that also makes zero sense, but it's simply because they're too lazy to actually cut out a hole on the Air for the flash. Now, because it's so little different with these iPads, I would not expect any price changes. They should stay at $599 and $799 respectively, and maybe we could see Wi-Fi 7 because we now have the M4 chipset, but is that really that exciting? Are you going to be rushing out to buy this iPad because it has Wi-Fi 7? I doubt it. And yes, I know the comments are going to say we don't need a faster iPad Air, to which I would say yes, the M2 and even the M1 are still plenty powerful for most people's needs, but Apple's totally doing this because Apple wants to simplify their supply chain. After all, Timothy's a supply chain genius. Also, this just came to my mind, but the iPad Air does have a fast USB-C port than the base iPads, but it's not Thunderbolt speeds, so that's a random change we could see with the M4, but again, unless you're transferring things very often, it's not going to make a massive difference. Also, I would not expect any storage tier upgrades. We were lucky to get a base of 128 gigs with the M4 models, and I expect that to be the case with the M4 as well. So let's now get into your comments regarding the M4 iPad Air. So Patton the Apple Gamer says, hope it comes with a ProMotion display by 2026, as I'll be upgrading in 2026 from a 13-inch M2 iPad Pro. Can't go Pro, this time Dualmento OLED in the Pros. I'm not sure about the last part, but I think ProMotion will eventually come to the iPad Air. I think when we see OLED, which will be around 2026 or 2027, we could see the addition of ProMotion, but I do wonder if Apple's going to give us 120Hz or if it's going to be AirMotion that's 90Hz on the iPad Air. I think that's fine, 90Hz is still an upgrade over 60Hz. But yes, I do see Apple eventually giving the iPad Air refresh rate upgrades, especially since the base iPhone 17s are gaining 120Hz this year. Anyway, let me know your thoughts in the comments, make sure to like and subscribe for more content like this, and thank you for watching.